Courage is Relational, a real skills workshop. I'm Rick from Thriving Now, and Kathy and I are here to explore this with you. And please know that even if you're engaging with us months from now, that our inbox is open at support@thrivingnow.com. You can leave comments in the Thriving Now Center, because courage is something that I find is profoundly misunderstood, and that it's not something that people own for as much courage as they show in their life. Can you help us understand what courage is from our thriving viewpoint?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they put courage and bravery this in the same bucket, and I don't think they're really the same thing. I think if we think of a brave soldier, it's like I gear myself up, I use my willpower, and I'm really excited, and I'll push myself through it. I'm not really facing the fear or my doubts. I'm kind of like revving up and going on adrenaline and trying to get through the thing. And maybe I'm facing danger, but I'm not really letting myself be as present with it. To me, courage is being afraid and doing it anyway, which means sometimes it's just facing the fact that I'm scared, facing what I'm scared of, what are the stories I'm telling myself, being present with what could happen or what I fear could happen, and kind of going, is this real, or is this just a Memorex memory from when I was a kid, or a projection, or a conflation? But for me, it's a lot about slowing down rather than rushing ahead. Bravery to me is like I'm rushing ahead really fast to get through it. Courage is I'm like, oh, can I be with myself as I walk through this thing, or choose what parts of this I do. It's much more thoughtful and introspective to me. And I'd love, Rick, for you to share. But if you're in the chat, if you're in this call, what does courage mean to you? I'd love to hear. Like, if you want to just put it in the chat.
See, I have a broad sense of courage as that energy that has people showing up and being present.
Mhm.
So, for example, I feel the contrast between the people that are choosing to engage around courage being in relationship, and that there's a tank of courage, and we're not totally without courage, and we also, it ebbs and flows, and it varies depending on the we space that we're a part of.
Yeah.
Now, someone said courage, that feel the fear and do it anyway. And as I explored this with using AI, I explored this with philosophers going back thousands of years. And many of them differentiated between bravery and courage, that bravery has a bias toward do it anyway. And that's sort of a brave act, a heroic act. I felt the fear and did it anyway. Um, a courage doesn't necessarily have performance to it. A lot of our myths and things have a performative quality to it, heroic. He did a heroic act.
Mhm.
Now, the person that holds the hand of their dying friend week after week after week after week after week, quietly present,
Mhm.
no, does not like hospitals. This is not where they want to be. um, there's a courage there in their state of being. And in the same way, the people that show up and hold space for what we're talking about, for how courage has played and not played in their life. Um, and even having the desire for more courage around things that matter to us, to me, asks courage. There, there are many thousands of people that bounced off of this. Now,
Mhm.
for some, it's just not interesting to them. Maybe they really understand courage for themselves, and it's not a question. But I know in the work, having done this work for a long time with Kathy, that I can feel hundreds of people out of the thousands on that were invited to this. Really, literally, thousands of people were invited to this who say they want to be thriving, and we're saying, as people with a lot of experience that courage is one of the keys to a thriving life.
Yeah.
And they bounced off of it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like that's part of what we're doing. Those that are ripe and ready and wanting this are saying, yeah, courage, let me explore this with you guys. Is this something that I can feel inside myself? Can I acknowledge the ways that I'm courageous and the circumstances that bring that forward? Can I acknowledge and accept that, some people in some relationships, um, the courage is going to be kind of like just showing up, but not necessarily courage to speak or courage to act because your energy and your wisdom and your savvy says, not here, not here. And there is a quality of upright chi, like stepping into your power. If you start with it as a state of being, like, well, do I feel powerful here? It's a little exercise for me, and I'm share it with you guys as I do it. How present am I with this as a challenging topic? Courage. And if I allow myself to settle more into being here now, not having to do, even though there's doing, I'm co-creating this workshop with all of you. I'm on camera right now, and yet courage that I feel is not a heady thing. It settles in and strengthens. So the sensation, and it's a powerful one, of settling in to being here now and strengthening the quality of your presence. Courage does have a quality of heart to it.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, going back thousands of years, its root in Latin is around the heart, and um, it became the word courage later. Uh, so, is there a power? Yeah, there's an energy to me when power means that I'm feeling my life force and I have access to it.
Yeah.
It's it's not um, at times when I've been brave, I feel like I was taken over in a good way, in a way that was congruent with who I want to be. I I get up, I race to the water, I dive in, I save the 3-year-old.
Mhm.
Okay? My life wasn't at risk in that case, but it's kind of a classic heroic thing. Um, Courage, you're aware of a different kind of dynamic. Like it's activating you. So innate power would be activation energy to be present and solid and strong, um, or shaky and present and devoted. There's a number of different flavors of courage as it expresses itself in our physical body and in our actions that come from that. Um, but it's certainly not a flaccid feeling. Like it's it has life force to it.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to go back to like I love what you've shared, and I also think it's useful to kind of dispel some myths about courage, at least ones that I've heard from a lot of people, and I also believed like growing up, it was kind of like, oh, that person is courageous, that person isn't. It's like you have a certain it was like born into you, and you're either a courageous person or you're not, which I think we talk about a lot. Courage is a muscle we can build, um and I think it's more recently that I've been looking at how courage is relational. It's relational to the situation I'm in, how supported I am, the connection I'm in the moment. I kind of thought, oh, I can build the muscles and I can, like, I think medical science is very much like, oh, if you can lift 30-pound bicep curls, then that's how strong you are. And that's how strong you should be every day. Versus, like, Oh, if I haven't had enough sleep and I'm really hungry and or I worked out really hard yesterday or whatever, I'm not going to be able to do that bicep curl as well. So my courage muscle strength can ebb and flow too. It's like, if I'm hanging out with Rick and we feel really connected, I'm much more courageous. And I've in fact asked him sometimes to help me with things. And I haven't got this thing done forever. Can you just hang out with me to help? I feel more confident. My nervous system feels more settled, to get this thing done. And I was, as I've been watching that, I've been really surprised to watch how much it shifts. I think until I had someone brought that way, someone I really trust and shared that courage is relational. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about that. What do you mean? And since then I've been paying attention to it. And I think I would often use um, this concept of courage being a fixed amount as a way to beat myself up.
Mhm.
Oh, I was that courageous yesterday. I should always be that courageous. Why am I not that courageous today? And it ebbs and flows just like our strength of lifting something or running fast or, you know, the courage to show up and be present with someone. Those are those things can ebb and flow. And I think once we're aware of what helps our courage ebb and flow, we can do things to consciously tend to our courage bucket, as you talk about, and help us step into things we want to get done, and also know like maybe today is not the day to do that.
There is a quality, and it's one of the reasons why I chose this work, is I'm around courageous people
Mm-hmm.
in my private sessions, in my group sessions,
Yeah.
in these workshops,
Mhm.
in in people that choose to share what's alive and real for them. And like I hinted to before, but I'll say again explicitly, if someone is in their courage, it is rare that if I point that out, that they would say, "Oh yeah, I feel courageous."
Oh yeah, most of us don't recognize it, I think, in the moment.
It's and yet it's palpable, especially for those that are sensitive, that want to live in a world where there's more hardiness than knight in shining. I would love to live in a world where no knights in shining armor are needed
Right.
unless they want to, do a little sparkle dance in the sunshine in their shiny armor. I really would love a world, but that doesn't change that courage will be like holding space for someone's yearning
Mhm.
and the sharp edges of their yearning, or we're longing and someone expressing their longing. To me, there's tremendous courage in revealing to anyone, or even your journal sometimes.
Facing it
Here,
ourselves. Half the
where
time.
your unmet yearnings and longings and so courage is a vibration that we don't necessarily um, feel it as courage when we're in it.
Mhm.
Just to let you know, that's why I have used and we've taught workshops around feeling calm and confident. If you are calm and confident, you're radiating an energy that has your heart in it too. And there's a quality of being able to be with reality and in relationship. And um, if you're settling and strengthening yourself, however imperfectly,
Yes.
you're still radiating what I pick up on as courage.
Mhm.
Uh, that's different from someone who's dysregulated and crying for help. Doesn't make them wrong, but that's different than the person who's dysregulating and looking in, are there is there anyone around here that I can co-regulate with and build back my sense of calm, build back my sense of confidence, and courage. You know, that
Well,
or just it's a different bit of a different vibration. And that's part of the skill is you can start picking up more and more. In retrospect, I find at the end of the day, if you're looking at yourself and say, was any point during the day that I was
courageous.
in a courageous place and being that? Um, Go ahead.
Just one of the thoughts that when you were talking about that, that's a very different energy than feeling like calm and confident is definitely very different than this kind of like, oh, someone save me. But I do also think asking for help can also be courageous. It's kind of situational as well. Like,
Yeah,
is it, am I defaulting to asking for help all the time, or am I, oh wow, I this is something it would really be good for me to have help with, and it's actually a little hard for me to do it, so I'm gonna try to do that. I'm trying to reach out. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to, I don't think it's what you meant, but I wanted to clarify that because I think sometimes asking for help is a very powerful thing.
I
And
would say that most of the courage that I demonstrate is asking for help, reflection, support, and that get active. You know, a lot of the courage I experience in this work is people having the courage to be present with what they're feeling, regardless of how, I mean, often intensely painful things, and yet sharing and opening up in that. And that to me also fits. Someone said, you know, is it a spontaneous conscious act? Um, I I'm choosing to start with a differentiation between act and spontaneous acts tend to fall into my category of bravery, but
I think what this person is I asked them, if could you say some more?
oh, okay,
And they said, in my experience, sometimes a friend or relative is expressing a certain need, and I'm responding quickly, offering help, assistance, commitment. And I would suspect that's generosity, not courage. It may take courage to do it, to offer that, but I think that the generosity is maybe that's very we have neural pathways. What we practice is easier for us, or go-to moves. And it may be that you have a lot of generosity and your go-to move is to help, to jump in and try to offer help. And it may feel frightening sometimes, but your neural pathways are well, you have a lot of practice. That muscle flows easily and is strong. And I would guess it's the generosity that's flowing spontaneously for you. For me, at least, my personal experience, I often will have to slow down, take a breath, and say, hold on, I need to gather my courage. I need to, and sometimes I can just, I've practiced it, or it's really important to me and I will go there, but mostly it's not spontaneous for me. It's okay, this is going to be a little hard, and I'm going to, how can I best tend to myself and how can I gather my courage? What do I need? It's very, very silly, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I have Wan Yin is a Buddhist. She's in many different spiritual uh, practices, but Guan Yin is the goddess of compassion, and she was the story is that she became so enlightened that they offered, she was allowed to go to heaven, and she said, no, I'm going to stay here and hear the cries of people that need help, the suffering, and try to help them. Well, I have the statue of Guan Yin, and there are times when I either touch it to help me feel more courageous, or I actually hold it and I'm like, okay, this is going to be hard, but it helps me feel supported and connected, so that helps me gather my courage to face things that are pretty scary. So, like, it might be I call Rick, or, I say, please send me a picture of a deer because I need some kind of feeling connection. But it's, for me, it's not spontaneous. I don't feel spontaneously courageous very often. And everybody's experience is a little different. We don't get to tell you what you are feeling, but just questioning whether it's your generosity that's spontaneous versus your courage.
mm. Yeah, we're not the feeling police. Just as Kathy clarified, if it feels courageous to you, then it is. Um, Regardless of whether it rises spontaneously. Um, my one of our core points that we want for all of us to recognize is we're probably in our courage more than we would proclaim. perhaps more than we would feel comfortable even acknowledging, like how much courage it takes um, to speak a truth to someone who has some power over us, like in the medical field.
Could we do some tapping on that? I think it's,
Yeah. Would
do
you
you,
lead?
yeah, I invite you to take a nice, gentle, deep breath. As we talked about, courage is relational. The more we can practice being with ourselves, connecting with ourselves in the moment, I think that's a way to connect and feel that courage more. And I invite you as you tap just to notice your butt in the seat and notice how your fingers feel as you tap on your skin. Karate chop. Even though I don't think I have very much courage.
Even though I don't think I have very much courage sometimes,
And I judge myself for that.
and I can judge myself for that.
I should on
And,
myself.
and I've shit on myself.
I should have done that.
I should have done that.
I should have been more courageous.
I should have been more courageous.
No one really gave me an operator's manual.
Nobody really gave me an operator's manual.
Top of the head. Maybe I'm more courageous than I think.
Maybe I'm more courageous than I think.
Eyebrow. No, that's not possible.
That's not possible.
Side of the eye. I'm afraid all the time.
I'm afraid all the time.
Under the eye. But maybe that's a sign of my courage.
But maybe that is a sign of my courage.
Under the nose. I'm turning towards things that make me afraid.
I'm turning toward things that I'm afraid of
And trying to face them.
and trying to face them.
Collarbone. Courage may not feel how I think it feels.
Courage may not feel how I was taught that it's supposed to feel and look.
Under the eye.
Thing.
There's no cape with blowing wind flapping.
I have no cape with blowing wind.
No heroic pictures.
No heroic pictures.
Top of that, it's quiet presence.
It's quiet presence.
And I think I might be doing that more than I realize.
And I think I might be doing that more than I realize.
And I'm just going to invite you to take a deep breath. Just try that on. You don't, again, we offer ideas and thoughts, and you can try them on and see if they elicit something. And my hope is always that what we share is very helpful to you, whether it's that's amazing and I like that, or oh, never that. That's not true for me. It's a way of shining light and helping you see yourself better. So
Well, there's an interest, and one of the reasons that Kathy and I touch on so many different aspects in a couple of tapping rounds is that we're inviting you to try on certain things and just see what rises. I'm I'm quite aware that if I if you said, Rick, are you courageous? My first response would be, no, not really, not more than your average bear.
yeah.
Now, why? I What came up in that tapping round is something that I really hadn't considered. Well, courageous people have to dot dot dot.
Oh.
And it's like, oh dear. Oh dear. So this is something that we can also tap on, and it's worthy, I think, of taking a moment to say, well, if if I was courageous, I'd have to what what do you what comes up for you?
Mm, yeah. I think that's a really good question. If I was courageous, I would have to. And that alone, there can be some reversal there. If I was courageous, I'd have to be really out there and I'd have to fight everybody that was bad and do all these things. And my nervous system, no, that's not what I want to do. So therefore I cannot be courageous.
Yeah. Even though I reject being courageous. Now
Even
this
though
is we're going to use a little gameplay here with the energy, right? Uh, even though I reject being courageous,
I reject being courageous,
especially if it means I have to do all those things
especially if it means I have to do all those things
in order to be true to my identity.
in order to be true to my identity.
Courageous one.
The courageous one.
Top of the head. Fuck that.
Fuck that.
Don't call me courageous.
Don't call me courageous.
Side of the eye. That comes with a lot of burden.
That comes with a lot of burden.
Under the eye. That comes with grotesque expectations.
That comes with grotesque expectations.
Under the nose. I don't want to face all my fears.
I don't want to face all my fears.
And some are really reasonable.
Some are really reasonable.
Hold on. I'm afraid of certain people.
I'm afraid of certain people.
And that feels really wise.
That feels really wise.
Don't call me courageous if it means I have to.
Don't call me courageous if it means I have to.
I want the freedom to be courageous when it's in my thriving interest.
I want to feel the freedom to be courageous when it's in my thriving interest.
And to have healthy boundaries when it isn't.
And to have healthy boundaries when it isn't. I would
What's the
actually
way?
argue that having healthy boundaries is courageous in itself.
You don't have to.
No.
So notice what this is part of the real skill is as we explore something, you may realize, well, oh, okay, so Rick and Kathy are talking about things, and as I look at my life, I'm definitely showing that I've been courageous. I'm showing up here, I'm doing this work together, I'm tapping on some uncomfortable things. And please don't call me courageous, because if you do, if that lands in my identity, I am courageous. I am courageous. And this is maybe part of the jujitsu of what we're talking about with this energy of courage. It's relational more than identity. It's an energy that we can call on, that we can embody, that we can be in, and it's going to fluctuate. As Kathy said, it can fluctuate just because our organism is tired or, I used up my courage tank in the last 3 days. And right now I just want to hide under the pillow and replenish myself. But also, part of the relational aspect is um, am I free to say no?
Yeah.
So I do believe it. There's a courage in saying no. Um, that that is to me often a courageous act. Just like saying yes is also a courageous act at times. Um, Saying tell me more, I'm not sure. It can be a courageous response. But there are people where that dance is just so unpleasant. Okay. When I say I'm scared of people, there's also like I'm repulsed by people who, if they want to do something, use all of their life force, their charm, the peer pressure and everything else to get compliance.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I think of courage as relational, am I lacking courage by not going to the party where there's a predominant energy of peer pressure to do things that are not a yes for others? I don't want to feel other people being pressured because that would have to draw on my courage to say, look, I'm not picking up that that's a yes for them, buddy. So back off. Now you notice there's a quality of energy of I'm having to I'm consent matters to me so much that if I'm going into a non-consensual dynamic that I know of, I have a problem if I use my courage to go. Well, now I'm going to need a lot more courage to navigate that for myself, for uh, other people that might be with me. So you see, for me, there's a quality of preciousness to courage, and I want to be a mindful steward of where my courage is called forth. And part of that relational thing is, well, what makes this relationship, this space, this experience something that is worthy of me showing up with courage? What makes it matter to me? And if you can't answer that, this is what I would start tapping and said, I'm not sure why this matters to me.
I'm not sure why this matters to me.
Eyebrow. It would take courage to go.
It would take courage to go.
Side of the eye. It would take courage to do it.
It would take courage to do it.
Under the eye. And I'm not clear whether it actually matters to me.
And I'm not clear whether it actually matters to me.
Do I have enough courage to determine whether it matters to me?
Do I have enough courage to determine whether it matters to me?
And with the freedom not to do it anyway.
And have the freedom to not do it anyway.
I really like being free.
I really like being free.
And sometimes it takes courage to have clarity.
And sometimes it does take courage to have clarity.
Top of the head. And some experiences and people are too expensive, courage wise.
Some experiences and people are too expensive to have courage around.
And that's up for me to choose.
And that is up for me to choose.
Now we sometimes we feel obligated, and that's a different workshop. We've done work on obligation. If sometimes it takes courage to do something and show up to fulfill an obligation, knowing that, that's where you are.
But like that was useful for me because as you were tapping, I get clarity that if I had infinite courage, I wouldn't. I often say, "Oh, I'm too scared to do that." That's my way of like, "Oh, I'm going to put a limit on it." And I think my thing is, can I be with reality and say, "Oh, am I scared? Is this a no for me, or is it an old fear? Or is it a real fear now? Can I be clear on all the different moving components before I decide? Versus if I had infinite courage, I should do all the things that I think I should do, and that's just too much for any human being. Like
Yeah.
I use my fear as a limiter for myself, and if I'm infinitely courageous, I should do them all, and that's just that's too much. I don't want to do that. But I do think being with reality and looking at where is it difficult but true? Like it's true. I'm going to a workshop, a conference next week, and my knee has been bothering me. And I really, really do not want to rent a scooter, but I am going to rent a scooter. It's taking a lot of courage to do that, to face reality that it's a lot of walking on cement. It's standing in place all day. Like it's long 12-hour days on cement, walking around all day, no place to sit. I can't do it. My knee will not do it. So, I kind of tried to negotiate with reality for a while. Maybe it'll be okay. I'll take my walking stick. Maybe I can find some. No, this is not going to work. Rent the scooter. But it's taking courage to look at that, to determine, part of me is like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go to the conference, but I really do want to go to the conference. And it's something that's important for my career and what I've contributed to. And I see people I really care about and knowledge. But I had to look at the reality of it, and that took courage. And then calling to I've never rented a scooter before. How do I know how to navigate it? How do I know how to handle it in the rooms and stuff? It's taking a lot of courage to do that. So I had to slow down and just be with it for a little bit and kind of pick it apart. And I don't know about you, but I tend to lump all kinds of things all together and it's too much. And it's like, no, here's this aspect of it. What am I feeling about that? Okay. That's just an old fear. It's like, well, I want people to think that I'm cool, and riding a scooter doesn't feel cool to me. Or competent, that sort of thing. Where have I projected stories about things, or my pride getting in the way, so to speak, versus, what is reality and what is useful and true in the moment. So kind of picking that apart has been an exercise in courage just by looking at it. And not trying to deny, oh no, I'll be fine. I'll get there and I'll just tough it out. And I don't think this is a tough it out situation. And then facing it's uncomfortable for me. I've never rented one before. I'm a very competent person generally, but what if I can't figure out how to operate it? What if I run someone over? What if I like park it in the wrong spot? What if I have trouble getting on and off while someone's looking at me if my knee locks up? So like I have all these thoughts and I'm trying to just be with them and breathe and go, well, it'll be really embarrassing if you fall on your face and someone will probably pick you up and it's not very likely. And, kind of just being with the mess that's reality often. That to me is kind of, I don't know. I think bravery is where we get very tunnel vision. I'm going to go save that person. And I think it's great. I'm glad it exists in some cases. But courage to me is kind of opening up and being with what is. And like that includes self care, meaning if I'm courageous, that doesn't mean I have to go rescue everybody and do everything for everybody else. My, it may be times when that's what I want to do and that's right for me. But there's other times when the courageous thing is saying, I'm really sorry you're in a tough place. I'll hold a good thought for you and I need to take care of myself tonight. So I think it's about being with what is. I'm not sure if I'm saying this clearly, but it's about being what is actually the moment. My body is tired. I care about you and I'm sorry that you're in a tough place and I want to jump in, but it's really not the best thing for me to do that right now. Um,
And you just pointed to a dialogue that asks a lot of courage. Um, the primitive brain's reaction are things that maybe we've heard. Why are you asking me? Why, you're bothering me. Go away. Why can't you deal this with this on yourself? That is a reaction coming from someone else that isn't in a place where the heart is saying, I care about you. And um, I I feel that I'm going to take, we're going to call it a courageous choice to tend to yourself in that moment or in that period, or to say no. Um, in my work with trauma inside of myself as well as with clients, one of the most courageous moments where like you can feel courageous energy has returned and is nourishing the healing process is when, however awkwardly, they say no to something that they've always said yes to.
Shifting the pattern.
Really wish I could, but I if I don't stay home to, like it can be noisy and everything else, but they do say no, and they take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Um, so if we look at courage as action taken, it misses the actions not taken that are also out of
Or the
a
things we get
courage for your own.
inside.
Yeah.
Think that there's also like TV tends to portray things very, in movies tend to portray things. The hero, the courageous person, never trips, never falls off their scooter, never runs over someone's foot. Um, it's very clear and very, like the lights all shine right. Their hair blows perfectly in the wind, and they're very graceful. And I don't think real life is really like that. Courage, acting in courageous ways is often kind of messy and but I don't think we recognize it always because it's not. Where's the wind blowing through my hair as I gracefully save the kitten from the tree? Um, I think there's an image that we're taught by society and media that's not very realistic.
Look at our points. The chat is open. If you're live on the call, if later you have an idea or question or something you'd like to share, uh, the replay is posted on thrivingnow.center as well, and we welcome your feedback and comments.
Yeah, and if you disagree with something, please share because this is not a. We're not trying to dictate to you what's true. We're trying to share ideas that hopefully will be helpful.
Well, one of the things that's coming to me right now is what makes courage disappear? Um,
I, yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it's something that I felt it run through my fingers sometimes when I'm like, I mean to do something, I feel like I've got it, and then it goes away. And I think that for me, I'm very person oriented. Like if I'm feeling safe with that person, I personally get feel much more courageous. So if they maybe get a look on their face like they're bored or disinterested, then I'm like, oh, I don't have support anymore. And they maybe not anything about me, but I've gotten better at asking. Is it, are we doing too much? Should we take a pause? But I think when I'm really tired or not, I haven't self care is such a big part of this. Like, if I haven't tended to my being, I haven't gotten enough rest, enough food, and a shower, connection with people, quiet time. I'm an introvert. I like some time alone and time with people. If I don't balance that well, I can really deplete myself very quickly, and then my own self talk can really like puncture holes in the tank and drain it pretty quickly. If I'm like shitting on myself. I should have done this better. I should already have this done. Well, how come I don't
You
know that?
shouldn't be afraid of this at this point in my life, all of those.
Ridiculous. You teach this. Why are you struggling with it? Come on. That
Yeah.
the beatings do not improve morale.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, shouldn't I have this already?
Shouldn't I have this already?
An infinite tank of courage.
An infinite tank of courage.
And sometimes it just goes away.
Sometimes it just goes away.
And I have some clues about that.
And I have some clues about that.
Under the nose. I'm still human.
I'm still human. Darn it.
I'm human. I'm human.
I'm human.
Uh, with all the human ebbs and flows.
With all the human ebbs and flows.
And I also have intuitions I can't always put into words.
And I also have intuitions I can't always put into words.
And survival strategies that are running.
Survival strategies that are running right away.
Yeah. And all that is a factor in my courage.
And all of that is a factor of my courage.
And it's okay.
And it is okay. I'd love if people have other thoughts about how do you notice your courage like tank getting punctured? Like what drains your courage tank or what makes you feel less brave? Not brave, courageous, willing to face things. If you're willing to share in the chat, I think it might be useful to see because Rick and I have ideas, but I think that there's many different ways we can sabotage our progress forward or get in our own way when we're trying to be courageous. So if you want to share, I'd love to hear.
Yeah. In fact, I think what we'll do is maybe take an early break right now. And that way it gives people a chance to reflect and feel.
Oh, authority. Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't think of that one, and that gets me really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk. Does that feel good to you to take
Yeah.
a break now?
Take a little bit early break and then
Yeah,
we'll
we're
come.
going to do a 7 minute break. When we'll be back. We're going to pause the recording. Welcome back. Courage is relational, and someone brought up a very powerful energy, authority,
Mhm.
and people have different relationships with authority. There are people that very naturally, oh, look, they're the authority, and I will do what they tell me to do because they rightfully have power over this space, this situation, this country, this world, in some ways, me. Um, so as I was tuning into it for me, um, and I'm really curious how you all feel about the energy of authority. For me, any non-reactive presence or response that I have when there's authority asks courage of me. And what I mean by that is that my primitive brain has certain reactions to authority. It could be rebellion, it could be fight, it could be submission, it could be avoidance, it could be freezing, right? My primitive brain knows about hierarchy. It, like you're talking to a dude that's been around. Look, I've been at all points on the shit pile. Oh, I've been king and I've been toilet slave. So I understand about authority, reacting to it in the primitive brain, as people that are wanting to evolve this and be in thriving. Authority has both our primitive reaction. And I believe one of the real skills for me is that, oh, I have the courage to be with the primitive reaction I have to authority and be in response. And that response may look just like my primitive brain suggested or demanded or instigated. And the courageous state of being is saying, yeah, um,
Otherwise,
this person actually has authority over this space, or this person is deluded into thinking that they have authority over me and this space. Um, this person is fighting for power over here. Um, this person, and that's where courage is relational, takes is able to take those things into account. I am not perfect at that. My primitive brain is still very strong in its initial reaction. And that's where we did a whole workshop on a powerful pause, where authorities are playing. It is courageous for me to take a pause, to really feel into what matters for me here. How do I want to spend my life force? Um, my vitality, my time, my energy, my thoughts, my ideas, and to navigate that. How does that how's that land for you?
yeah, I think they're, and I like the concept because I tend to be very intimidated by authority. My go-to reaction, like it sounds like yours can go a number of different ways. Mine tends to be like, oh, I need to step back and obey. And if they're telling me I shouldn't do something that I know that I actually have the right to do, I often feel very afraid of doing that. Like, it's much, I think the more afraid we are, the more courage has to come up to get over that fence, so to speak. And so when I'm really intimidated, I'm like, ah, it takes a tremendous amount of courage and wanting for something to get me to do what they're saying not to do, even if it's not their right to say not to do it. Like, they don't really have the right to enforce that. But um, I think anytime we have a go to, unless it's something
Hmm.
consciously practiced, or, I mean, maybe we have some innate things we really like about ourselves, but go tos are typically neural pathways that have just been built up over time and we've practiced the habit of it. So I'm trying to be aware when I can, like, oh, that's a habit. Do I like this? Oh, maybe I like most of it, but I want to pull this aspect out, or I want to modify it some. So I think I really love that the person shared authority because I hadn't really been thinking about that aspect for courage, and it can be if someone in authority tells me to do something, I can more easily do it. That lowers the fence. If they're telling me not to, and I think I should, the fence gets really high. The fear fence gets really high. So I think that I can relate to what they were saying. And I also know there's some people that are like Rick, like you. Sometimes you're like, no, I'm going to fight this. This is not right. You don't get to tell me this. Um, so I think anytime we can do that, taking that pause is a lot of courage too. Like, not immediately, when our neural pathways want us to move forward, to pause actually takes conscious control and courage because there's a like, no, this is the right way to go. That we're breaking a pattern and it's uncomfortable. It may not always be fear inducing, but it's uncomfortable to break patterns that are well entrenched.
Right. And a lot of the real skills that we work on that are for thriving are, hey, I've got a default related to authority. And for example, intimidation, the recognition that this person has an intimidating presence. Um, I we can often feel where that lives. Now, sometimes it can flood us, so where it's not as clear. But as a survival strategy, if you're around an intimidating person, obeying is the least likely to cause harm in many, 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 hundreds of thousands of cases. Get moving. Yes, sir. Right. Um, Now, if does it take courage for me to pause even a millisecond to go within and feel for, well, is this person actually the steward over this space? So there are there are people like a lifeguard at the beach who may be invested with certain authority and responsibility to keep people safe. And if they say out of the water, they may have both the authority to give that order and also the community we space of that beach may have legal structures and agreements that you take on by walking onto the beach.
And they might have knowledge of a shark, for example, or a riptide that I want to don't want
Exactly.
to stop and question them while I'm in the water. I want to get out of the water and then find out.
Right. Now, if somebody's default is when given an order is instead of obeying the order, being intimidated or shocked or like, get out of the water, of course, like you're already moving. There's no delay, there's nothing. The same person that just flips them off, like, no, this is my beach. Actually, maybe, but you could be putting yourself at risk. So courage, um, in a case where authority is being expressed as an order or a limit or a command to do or a command to not do, um, uh, those are things that um, I personally found going back in time to where I objected to legitimate authority with a reaction and tapping on it. Like, even though I hated that he could tell me to get off the road,
Even though I
or
hate
to move off, yeah, or to move off the bridge.
fish,
Yeah, he actually had the authority,
he actually had the authority.
and mouthing off was not useful for me.
Mouthing off is not useful for me.
That was a reaction.
That was a reaction.
But I hate being compliant.
I hate being compliant.
I hate having to obey.
I hate having to obey.
I'm a freedom oriented person.
Good for you, freedom oriented person.
Under the eye, I love my freedom.
I love my freedom.
Under the nose, I hate it when people step on my freedom.
I hate it when people step on my freedom,
And even if they think they have the authority,
even if they think they have the authority,
especially if they don't actually have the authority.
especially if they don't actually have the authority.
The arm, but my default is to object even if they do have the authority.
My default is to object even if they do have the authority.
And I still might obey
And I
without
still
saying anything.
without saying anything.
Yeah, I'm in the process of noting where courage could support me here.
I'm in the process of noting where courage could support me here. I think there's I like the analogy that I read for a person that was talking about raising children. They're like, you want to stay in the between the lines on the road. Like you don't want to go too far into the driving by braille, too far to the right, you start running into the rough stuff, and too far on the other side, you're going to run into the median. And I think with this, it's like there are times when obeying blindly can cause a great deal of harm. And there's times when reacting against it blindly can cause a great deal of harm. And I think the part is blind, like reactionary. It's like if we can consciously look at it and say, hey, this time I think it's good to obey, but I'm not going to always obey. Because I do think sometimes the conscientious objector is a very powerful thing to have. Like authority is telling you, you won't go do this thing. And you're like, I'm sorry, that is not aligned with who I am. I will not support that is also very useful. So I think courage is much more subtle and there's aspects to it in a lot of different ways. Like it's not just running into battle. It's like sometimes it's saying, no, I will not do that battle. And sometimes it's saying, yeah, okay, I'll obey here, but I'm going to question it afterwards. Like, I'll get out of the water, but I then want to know why you're telling me to get out of the water.
And someone said, when it's hard for me to pause when authority asks, right? And it's it's actually supposed to be like we're wired that way. We really are wired that way. We would not exist. Our ancestors would have died off if
Mhm.
there weren't sufficient of them that went along, even sadly with things that were terribly wrong for them and others. So this impulse is I don't say supposed to, I'm going to soften it again. Like the initial reaction to obey is not something you must change. I do believe that we can start like, oh, I'm being told to do this. And it is not going to immediately cause my death and it's not going to immediately cause harm to anyone else.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. To the
uh,
best.
that's where your fight reflex, your brave opposition might kick in. Like, no way, I am not going to do that. You'll have to lock me up, right? I'm not going to do that. That would be a brave reaction to something that is so intolerable. But a lot of authority that we end up regretting or feeling like, well, I should have spoken up, I should have said something. Um, the pause can look like I've taken the first couple baby steps, but I'm checking in with myself. Is this okay for me? Now, it may not be your optimal choice, but is it okay for me? Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, to the best of my knowledge, given the in the given moment, it's like we don't have infinite knowledge as much as I like to pretend I can or should. Like we don't. We make the best choice we can in the moment, and I think we need to give ourselves some leeway for. I may make a decision that's not right for me, but I'm making the best choice I can given the knowledge I have in the moment.
You'll notice that I've woven in some things that I've learned as a somewhat reactive, formerly very reactive person to authority. I'm one of the freedom kin. I I don't like being told what to do. I like being invited. I like being suggested. I do also at the same time believe that rules and agreements around spaces should be adhered to. And so like I got this weird kind of mix in my reactive brain. So what I look for are what are non-reactive ways of seeing a situation. And by doing that, it's it is reprogramming the primitive brain to say, yeah, let's reframe this situation. Okay. So, um, if I go to a concert and they have security, part of the agreement of me going there is that security is providing security for myself and others. Okay. If they disagree that my water bottle is acceptable and I need to walk all the way back to my car or throw out my nice $20 water bottle, okay, the reactive part of me wants to call them on being ridiculous. The other part is say, who are the stewards here? And I'm not, am I actually making an agreement by joining this space, this concert, or going into an amusement park, right? I don't necessarily know all the rules and authorities that are going to be there. But what if I say, like, look, if these people are charged with the stewardship of this shared space, then um, they may be being unreasonable. The rule itself may be just stupid, silly. I can see 100 ways to do it better because, I'm an engineer. And I want to be in response about it rather than bucking and rebelling, or just collapsing. Because if you decide, say, I The concert's about to start. I've got this water bottle. I thought an empty water bottle would be fine to bring in, but they're saying no. And I don't want to walk all the way back to my car. That would take me 20 minutes each way. I'm going to toss it in the trash. And maybe someone will collect it. I don't know. But it's a response that I can make and choose in that moment. Now, if I just feel like, well, this guy has all this power over me and this is wrong and it's such a waste and it's stupid and why are they demanding this and they won't let me in without it and they're going to ruin my night, um, that may stick with me for weeks. Or I might tell that story
For
10
years.
years later as something that has a lot of charge to it rather than, look, I, and you can take situations if you're wanting to be less reactive and still have your presence.
Mhm.
Courage is a quality of presence and clarity that you're not collapsing under authority. You're not just complying, where you're all the resistance is internal and you're not showing it. Um, and you're carrying that resistance inside. You'll have more options of being able to move the energy in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
it gives you options that you wouldn't see otherwise when you're being mindful and with the moment.
yeah. Now this leads me to at least point to something. Sometimes you have people that think they rule over you. They might have the keys to the finances, right? And they use that authority over a partner, or they might, uh, there's lots of ways that authority gets screwy and harmful and depleting in relationships. And part of courage in relationships can be like, well, to give yourself a moment to recognize that the energy here is just off. And uh, and to recognize another part of that real skill for me is it's courageous to hold space for myself, to not like I want people to have people that they can speak their truth to, even difficult truths, right? That's an expression of courage. I also want myself and my family and others that I love to have that same energy that can say, this is not the moment, this is not the time, or this is not the person. I'm going to be more matter of fact with this narcissist. Because if I argue, if I defend, it's just going to get bigger because in their mind they have authority.
Yeah.
They treat me as if they have authority over me. It takes courage to be neutral and matter of fact in the face of abhorrent behavior, but it actually can serve you and your capacity downstream.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's that's been my experience close to home with, um, people out in the world, not in my house, mercifully, but
Yeah, you have a good home.
yeah.
Um, I think that kind of is someone said they did that today. Congratulations. Um, I want to make sure we loop back because we promised to talk about how to rebuild trust with ourselves. If we haven't, we've had freeze or fear or freeze moments. And I know that you've been dealing with someone that's a little challenging sometimes, and we've talked about it, and I watched you grow around it. Um, and I think that if we think of courage in the old paradigm where we have certain people have a lot of it, it's a certain amount that we have, we should have the same amount all the time. It's really easy to beat ourselves up when we fail. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be courageous, my fear overwhelmed me. I froze, I fled, you know, I just couldn't move forward. Um, and if we, one of the things I think is beautiful about remembering that courage is a dynamic thing, it's like, oh, wow, can I look at it and learn? What could I have done in that moment to have more, could I have been more rested? Could I have had a friend with me? Could I have Rick and I often will do practice conversations. We're actually building neural pathways. So it's a little bit easier to get over that fence, the fear fence, so to speak. If there's a pattern, we know we can do it. Our brain is a little more prepared. So one of the things I'd invite you to, and I'm pointing fingers back at me because I get very hard on myself when I meant to do something. I thought I had enough courage and I just fail. I'm like, ugh. But I think when we can remember, hey, this is a learning experience. And I love the fact that Rick has Adira in his life for many, many reasons, but for the fact that watching her learn to do stuff, she fails many times as she's learning it. She's clumsy and awkward and gets frustrated and throws it down and I'm never doing this again. And then 5 minutes later, she's back learning it. Um,
Which happened tonight over a yo-yo.
Young are hard. She's just
So
fun.
very hard. I have a lot of compassion for the struggle of yo-yoing. I spend so many hours just learning the basics.
But I do think that when we can mine the experience for what worked and what didn't work. Where did I feel weak? Where did I feel strong? What things I can run through the scenario, not forever, but enough to like go, oh, I think if I'd had a buddy and said, hey, Rick, I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to call you afterwards so I don't chicken out. I'd like to practice with you. I sometimes write things out. I write out like what I think they would say and kind of figure out how I would. It's called written mental dialogues, where you like, I think they would say this if I said this, and then I would say this, and then I would chicken out and run away, and then I'm like, okay, let's try it again because we can practice facing that fear in writing repeatedly without you. It's harder. People get really frustrated the 15th time you come up to have the same conversation with them and run away. Um, but rebuilding trust with yourself is partly acknowledging that you don't have to get this perfect, that life is messy sometimes. And when we're doing things that take courage, we're not in our comfort zone generally. Generally, our comfort zone is not fearful. We don't need courage for a lot of the things that we're very comfortable doing. Do you have thoughts on rebuilding trust around these times you failed?
For me, they often were judgments about a wish that my primitive brain hadn't reacted a certain way, and a kind of fantasizing, imagining, wishing that I had done it differently. And we can tap on that. And I just want to acknowledge first that um, when our primitive brain kicks in, it's like a program that's already been written.
Yeah.
How you reacted, whether it's freeze or fight that didn't work out, or flee that you wish you'd had more something. Um, when the primitive brain does its thing, it's like a program that it's going to run a certain way. It can be reprogrammed post, but what we did, the freeze, the silence, the keep of the secret, the compliance, the dissociation, all of these things were the best that our ancestors handed down to us, that our training taught us, that our life experience gave us. That was the program. And by doing this work, we continue to iterate our choices. We get different options. But the primitive brain, when it kicks in, it really runs a program, and then we can recover maybe a lot faster. We can make not part of the program the recriminations of I should have done it better. I should have done it differently. Even though I should have been more brave
Even though I should have been more brave.
and grabbed the sword and slayed the dragon.
He grabbed the sword and slayed the dragon.
That's not what I. That's not what happened.
Is not what happened.
That was so not what happened.
That is so not what happened.
That doesn't actually speak to my courage.
That doesn't actually speak to my courage.
Top of the head. I have courage even to acknowledge what happened.
I have courage to even acknowledge what happened.
Eyebrow. I have courage to realize I wish it had been different.
I have courage to recognize I wish it were different.
To the eye. And to prepare myself to react differently,
And,
maybe.
and to prepare myself to react differently, maybe.
Under the eye. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to react the same way I was when I was 7.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to react the same way as when I was 7
Under the nose. Or 13.
or 13.
And I've come a long way.
I've come a long way.
Collarbone. I still have a primitive brain
I still have a primitive brain,
in the arm, and I have a courageous heart too.
and I have a courageous heart too.
Or I wouldn't be here doing this.
Or I would not be here doing this. And take a breath. And I do think it's useful. Like, I know that I tend to, if I do something that I feel very embarrassed about, I I've gotten better, but I still have the tendency to want to push it away and pretend it didn't happen. Let's like sweep it under the rug and pretend. Um, and I'm not saying that we should just like use our willpower to look at things, but getting some coaching or some support, some tapping to gently look at what happened, we can learn, oh, where were there places, some big gaps where my courage tank was leaking, or I was making the fear fence higher than it needed to be because I'm imagining things or making up stories or thinking I'm alone. What could I do to help myself face this better? And that's also like, how do we top off our courage tanks? What works for you? What works for me may work for you, but it may not. Like, I love having, talking it through with a good friend, but some people really like to write things out, or there's different ways we can practice that. um, Someone shared, interesting, I froze on something recently that I've been freezing on for over 35 years. I hadn't thought about it in the primitive brain sense. We'll be open to that in order to change it. And I think understanding the primitive brain has so much power. And I think it's useful to remember the primitive brain has first dibs on our resources. And that's how we survived. We evolved that way. Because if there's a hot stove, my hand better move before I go, huh, that feels a little warm. I smell burning flesh. I wonder if I should move my hand. By then, your hand is burnt. Like, it's like, so our primitive brain has first dibs on our resources, and it's very powerful. We cannot fight it for long. We can tap with it, and then all of a sudden we're working together on something. And that's
Mm.
a lot more fun for me than trying to constantly fighting something and going, why can't I do this? So
There's if since courage is relational, one of the key relationships is how you choose to look at yourself and the frame of reference.
beautiful.
And I certainly can look at myself as and criticizing myself from a primitive brain standpoint. But I also can look at it as, okay, if there is courage, where is it? Where am I actually using it?
Mm.
So one thing is, did you do anything hard today without running or beating someone up or just freezing and dissociating? It's okay if you did one or all of those things too, but did you do anything hard that required a certain, this is hard and I'm with it. I'm here with it, right?
Yeah.
And why why do you think that that mattered to you to stay present and courageous with that hard thing? When you are aware, like it was hard to go to work today. I'm not saying this for me, but I know people that it was hard for them to go to work today. It was hard to be around a boss with their personality um, quirks, to be gentle. Um, but I my future self matters to me, and I want them to have food and shelter and moments of beauty. To me, that, and this, someone asked, top off one's courage tank. If you look at your past self and can honor, like, I did that,
Yeah.
and that did take courage. And I was doing something that mattered to me, to myself now, or to my future self that's going to get that paycheck at the end of the pay period. That I held a space that reflected my resilience and my capacity. It is, you go sideways if you think I'm filling my tank in order to do more courageous acts. I think, like, my own sense is that it's like I'm not trying to fill my tank in order to push myself to do more courageous acts. One of the things that I notice is that if I acknowledge an act as requiring hardiness, right? It does transition from being hard to being hearty
Mm.
to being part of who I am, my artistry. And at that point, I might not look at myself and point to that as where I used my courage. I use my life force, I use my vitality, I use my competence, I use my skill, real skill, my savvy, but I didn't wasn't drawing on my courage. It is a bit of a different thing, but I do use my courage every day. Um, I get presented with things that I don't know. I okay, and
Dad,
to
I'm
stay
braiding my
present
hair
with
right now. I don't have a braided hair,
it.
but I'll try.
I have no experience braiding hair. I can give you a buzz cut if you'd like one. No.
My
Um,
friends can be
other,
judgmental.
uh, yeah, other ways to top off to me is also to um, allow yourself to not use courage if it's not, like, there are times when doing fun things would actually require a bit more courage than I really want to put out there. And there's a fascinating thing that if I say, I would love to go do this, right? It's it would have taken energetic courage for me to go to the grocery store today. It's cold out. It's the first day of really serious cold. I didn't go for a morning mile. It would have required a certain amount of chi, not necessarily courage, but a certain kind of chi I didn't really feel I had. But the grocery store would have required courage, especially taking a 5-year-old. I didn't have it. What's interesting though is I didn't force myself to use that courage. I don't put it using courage as um something it's something I can do, but it's I steward my courage. And what's interesting is if I don't use it for something, even though it sort of mattered, what mattered more was to keep energy for tonight, right? Like, this is a late workshop. I'm not the only one who's up at, 10 o'clock. The West Coasters and people around the world are in a little different time and time zone. But
Sorry.
I, by holding on to that, there's a compounding effect. I feel like it would be no big deal for me to go to the grocery store tomorrow.
Mhm.
And if I were to sense, like, what did that do for my courage? By not using it, it grew a bit. So you
It
notice, like, if
on something with a
my
fence.
tank is at a 6 and I use a 3, well, now I'm at a 3 and it's going to be a while before I'm back at a 6. If I don't use that, then I 6, 7, 8, 9, my tank is full. Um,
I do
does that
like
make
yeah,
energetic sense to you?
it does, and I think the analogy of working out is a good one because it's like if I always say I'm conserving my courage for later, that means I'm never working it. I'm never building those muscles up, so they get actually weaker. But if I know I'm going to run a marathon this afternoon, I don't need to go for a 5 mile hike this morning. So there's some kind of balance. And then I can also look at like self care. I think it kind of gets a bad rap from a lot of people, I think, because it means, oh, I'm going to light a candle and sit in a bubble bath. But to me, self care means facing reality. It may mean I'm going to file those taxes that I've been meaning to do, or I'm going to clean that closet because I really need, it will help my being feel more together. It's something I've been meaning to do. So I think when we're trying to fill up the tank, notice what conditions we can set: enough rest, enough food, enough companionship, support, practice, but also like what's the situation around the situation.
Thank you all. Kathy, would you like to bring this to a close?
Yeah, it's
Or
like you can. What Rick said was beautiful. Acknowledge your courage. Look back to your younger self, and notice the fact you are here. There is a big path for most of us to get here. We had to walk a lot of very courageous steps. So acknowledging courage can really help you grow that. And if you are here, you already have a big dose of it. And we're both really honored to get to try out different ideas and share thoughts with you. So thank you so much.
okay. I look forward to our next workshop. And remember, our inbox is open, support at thrivingnow.com. And we have a community center where we get to explore these types of things at thrivingnow.center.
Yeah.
Bye.